This is the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. It's the most powerful SUV ever made by Porsche. So I had a great idea. I'm going to come to Germany, and then I'm going to go to the Black Forest. I'm going to drive it really, really fast. But you know what they say about even the best laid plans? But this might not be a disaster, because even though this car has got 471 kilowatts, it's also an SUV. If you've liked this video of a very fast Porsche and me getting hypothermia, you know what to do. Click all the things. And if I'm boring you at any point, use these bars at the bottom to skip to something more interesting. But I want to show you a few bits and pieces on the outside of the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT, because it is a handsome beast. The front end is not that different to the Turbo, just the plastic pieces have changed, more aerodynamics, more brake cooling. On the side though, things get significantly different for this particular one. Now, the keen-eyed viewers will know that this is not the standard wheel on the Cayenne Turbo GT. This is a 21-inch wheel that's been fitted because it's just become winter in Germany, and that means it has to wear mud and snow tyres. Now, when I picked this car up, I was really disappointed to see it didn't have the amazing 22-inch wheels on it, but now I'm delighted. You may also notice this one doesn't have the bright yellow calipers that you get as standard with carbon ceramic brakes, which you get included in the price on this model. That's because this one has been upgraded, would we say, with an optional black caliper for a more subtle, sleeper look. Can't think why anyone would do that. It's dressed up in this lovely British racing green colour, and there's carbon fibre bits everywhere, the door mirror caps, and there's no sunroof because this has also got the optional carbon fibre roof. And there's more carbon fibre pieces back here too, these lovely little wing extensions for the active aero. This car actually has active aero that contributes to the downforce when you're going over a certain speed. And you can better appreciate that lovely coupe roofline from back here too. Defining features for the Turbo GT are obviously badging if you want it, and when you're behind one of these things you know what you're up against because of those amazing twin titanium exhausts, bookended by more carbon fibre and this amazing diffuser. There's loads more specific Turbo GT equipment inside, so let's have a look at that now too. It's always a pleasure jumping into the Cayenne cabin, and I'm pleased to say when you jump in the Turbo GT, the levels get upped once again. The materials are top quality, first class, Alcantara everywhere, including on these lovely seats. The seats are super supportive, also look beautiful, and I love the Turbo GT decals finishing on the headrests, even in the back as well. The back seats are also like the front, bucket seats, super supportive, and that Alcantara is everywhere. The seats, the dashboard, the ceiling, door pillars, even on these panic handles and the gear selector. But the one place it isn't is on the steering wheel. I suspect the same person that spec'd those weird black calipers has gone back to a more standard looking steering wheel. No Alcantara here, nor do you get that 12 o'clock marker, which you do as standard. The only thing setting it apart is this nice contrasting stitching. Everywhere else, loads of equipment. This huge central touchscreen that contains all the latest smartphone pairing and mirroring, and the driver's display is really a point of excellence. Digital displays either side, but a bit of the tradition with the rev counter mounted in the center, and it's analog as it should be. Other things like the ignition switch on the left hand side and the Sport Chrono package up here, it just has a really nice balance of Porsche tradition and also modernity as well. But the bit we haven't got to yet is that monstrous engine up front, and I can't wait to find out what it's like. Essentially, it's the same 4-litre twin-turbo V8 you'll find under the bonnet of the Audi RS Q8. Except for the GT, it's been squeezed to liberate a little bit more power, almost 70 more kilowatts and 80 more Newton meters. That makes 471 and 850 Newton meters in total. What does that feel like? I'm glad you asked. This car is very fast. I thought it was going to be incremental over the standard turbo and barely noticeable, but the results are spectacular. Now that combines with a few other bits and pieces and goodies as well. The modifications extend to the suspension. This car rolls 17 millimeters lower. And you add to that lovely carbon fibre roof, which means the centre of gravity is much lower. The handling is transformative. And on some of these more winding alpine roads, it is incredibly involving. I'm staggered by vehicles like this. How did big SUVs, this one weighs about 2 tons, become so agile? But the responsiveness is wonderful. The steering is super sharp. And the biggest hero of the day are those mud and snow tyres. I cannot believe the amount of grip they're finding on these horrible surfaces and treacherous conditions. And behind that wonderful V8 is a spectacular transmission. Again, it's been modified and fettled for the GT, which means the gear shifts are sharper and faster, and they are brutally aggressive, even in sport mode. If I flick over to Sport Plus, everything gets even more dramatic. The power is in all modes very, very rear biased. And on slippery surfaces like this, it keeps you on your toes, let's put it like that. But perhaps my favorite thing about this car is the sound it makes. I'm sorry, I could do that all day long. What I worry about is when engines get tuned and developed and squeezed to make more power, sometimes they can start feeling like they're pushed beyond their safe and friendly limit. But this feels like it has finally arrived at the state of tune it always should have been. It's an absolute masterpiece. And an honourable mention has to go for the brakes. Those vast carbon ceramic rotors, one of the biggest brake setups fitted to any passenger vehicle, instills a sense of confidence that you frankly need with a car that's this big and this fast. There's a classic Porsche brake pedal feel. It's super firm, but even though they're carbon ceramics, they don't need warming up too much. And in really, really chilly conditions, 0 degrees today, that's really important.
All this substance doesn't come cheap though, and the Cayenne Turbo GT will cost you a hefty $336,000. But look at it like this. It might be 127 grand more than the mechanically similar Audi RS Q8, but it's still $56,000 cheaper than the Lamborghini Urus. With 0 to 100 acceleration of just 3.3 seconds though, the Porsche is faster than both.
I was worried that the Turbo GT was going to be an unnecessary evolution of what was already a brilliant car. But having spent a day in it, I'm pleased to say I'm completely wrong. And the reason for that is because of what happened with the conditions. If we turned up to the Black Forest in virtually any other car, say a Cayman or a 911, the day would have been a disaster. But because this car is an SUV, it meant we could lean on its split personality and the other side. And although the story has been completely different, it's been a total success.